Today I'm going to install this KC317 amber LED light bar in behind the grill of my wife's 2500 Denali pickup truck. I'm also going to do it using this OEM headlight switch that has the dual functionality for the fog lights and overhead lights. And I'm going to wire that into the factory system so that the overhead light icon shows up inside the instrument cluster, and show you how that's done. This headlight switch that I installed has a red background on it because it's for a 2016. 2017 went to a blue background, so you'll need a different part number for it. All right, getting started. The first thing I need to do is build the wire harness between the headlight switch and the BCM. But the headlight switch harness may have a Delphi plug or a Molex plug, and I need to determine which plug that is so I know which terminals to use. So first thing we got to do is pull out this headlight switch and take a look at that plug. All right, so here's how to get the panel off that has the headlight switch inside of it. First, you want to pull off the fuse panel access from the side of your dash, and then just get a firm hold of the headlight switch panel, pop that sucker right off of there. Now you've got access to the plugs. All right, so we're working with a Delphi plug as it has a solid notch there instead of two individual fingers. While I have this panel out, I might as well swap out the headlight switch. So what I'm going to do is push with my fingers on the front side as I pull out on this tab, just kind of releasing pressure on these side tabs, and just kind of pop the old one out and just snap the new one in. It's that easy. All right, now I need to look at the BCM and determine if these plugs are from JST or TE. So I'm going to pull off the brown X5 connector, a little push tab there on the side just to release it with, and look for the initials. There they are right there at the top, JST. So X5 is the JST connector, and the X1 connector is a JST as well. Depending on which connectors you ended up with, I have the JST and the Delphi connector, so I'm going with gray and yellow. If you had the Molex and the TE connectors, you would go with, instead of gray, blue. But that's just to follow the factory schematics. This is automotive crosslink wire, got it from Waytech. It's 22 gauge, it resists heat, oil, everything, you name it. It's high quality wire, and it's pretty affordable if you order it like a 500-foot spool. So I cut these at 36 inches, 3 feet, and that'll be just enough length from the headlight switch down to the BCM. The gray wire is just going to go from the switch to the BCM. The yellow wire is going to go from the BCM back up to the headlight switch to make the indicator light on the switch itself turn on. But a foot from the BCM, I'm also going to spike in another yellow wire that's going to feed out under the hood to the relay for the trigger wire. All right, let's start stripping these things back. Here's how to crimp these terminals on there. You'll need a special Delphi crimper. Smash them down, move on to the insulator, smash it down, and there it is. Also on the edge of these terminals, you'll notice that there's a little nub. You'll just have to kind of squish that down into the side, and then it'll be just fine. Here's a couple different part numbers, different variants of the same terminal. They're a little bit differently shaped, but they'll still work just fine. These are gold plated, these are tin plated, and they'll both work for the BCM and the headlight plug. So I'm going to go about a foot back from the end of the yellow and strip back just a little bit so I can feed in the second lead. So I've got it stripped back and opened up. It's going to feed one lead through the other, twist them together, and then solder them. Just going to slip some yellow heat shrink down the line. Slip it just over the soldered connection and shrink it down. Alright, with both leads cut to length and then terminated, I'm going to wrap it with this fleece automotive wire harness tape, just starting at the headlight switch end and wrapping all the way down to the BCM end. When I get down to the BCM end, I'm going to leave enough length and the terminated leads to hit both of the connectors, the X1 and the X5 connector. And then the other yellow wire that's going to end up going out under the hood to the relay gets its own wrap. Alright, looks good. Let's go install it in the truck. Back to the headlight switch plug. What I'm going to do is pop this green TPA or terminal lock up just one click so that I can insert terminals into the back of it. So looking at the back of it, if you look closely, you can see that it's numbered. This is number 7, this is number 12, this will be number 1, and this is number 6. There'll be just a little number down at the bottom corners. So number 9 is going to get the yellow lead, and number 6 is going to get the gray lead. Number 9 and number 6. Time to lock in, and then slip that TPA back into place. Alright, with these leads installed into the headlight plug, I'm going to feed the new harness through the dashboard, following the same route down to the BCM as the OEM harness. And what you really have to be mindful of is not blocking the path of the parking brake. With the harness in place, I'm just going to plug everything back in and put this panel back on. And the fuse block cover. Okay, down at the BCM, I'm going to pop off the brown X5 connector, and I need to release this black TPA by pulling it down just a little click. Slip the little flathead screwdriver underneath there and kind of clicked it up. Now I need to go to cavity number 5. So if you look at this thing, you can see that it's numbered up there in the upper left is 1, and then 21, 26, and up here would be number 4. So cavity number 5 is going to be this one below the yellow and blue wire that's vacant right there. I need to slip the yellow wire into that. Just push it on until it snaps into place. Relock that TPA and plug it back in. Okay, same thing with the X1 connector. Just need to pop this TPA loose. Just slip a little flathead screwdriver in there and kind of pop it down on both sides. This one's numbered as well. It's just kind of hard to see because it's white, but this is cavity number 12, and it's going to get the other wire, the gray wire. Slip that sucker on in there, snap it into place, and lock that TPA back down. Now this other yellow lead that's going to go back up underneath the hood and out to the relay is going to go over the X61A. That's basically this junction box here down by the pedals. Back up behind it, there's a rubber firewall boot, and we're going to feed it through that. Go over here on the driver's side, past the X50A under hood fuse box. You'll find this rubber firewall boot and this little nipple right here. I'm going to score an X in that and pass the yellow trigger lead through that. Okay, you can see I've got a little hole formed. Now it's time to pass the wire through. I'm going to pass a fish tape through from the outside and then pull the wire back out from the inside. I found that a lubed up 1/4-inch drive extension slides through that hole a little bit easier. I'm just going to tape the yellow wire onto this, pull it back out. Here's the wire harness that came with the light. It's got a little switch with an indicator LED on it. Waterproof connector, plenty of wire. Got a relay and positive and negative fused from the battery. So you've got positive power coming to the relay, and then signal from the switch coming to the relay, and power from the relay going down to the light. All right, so looking at the back of the relay, this bottom one here with the white and the red, that's terminal 30. You've got positive power coming in fused from the battery in that red wire. The white wire is full-time power coming back out going to the switch. The blue wire is the trigger wire for the relay. That comes from the switch to the relay and tells the relay to turn on, and connects terminal 30, the white and the red one, to terminal 87. This will be the output from the relay going to the light. And this black one here would be terminal 85, which is grounded. I'm going to mount the relay that came with this harness onto this stud up here for this little controller guy. If you don't have a diesel, if yours is a gas truck, you'll still have these studs here, you just won't have this little module. So I'm going to pop this little 10mm nut loose, slip this relay on there, and tighten it back up. So as far as the wires that go to the relay, the blue wire is going to get connected to the yellow wire coming from the headlight switch. The white wire and the black wire can just go bye-bye right now. Solder together the yellow wire and the blue wire. And heat shrink it down. Alright, I've got the yellow wire soldered to the blue wire. heat shrunk down and wrapped with some of this harness tape. On the back side of this X50A underhood fuse block, there's a little cover. I'll squeeze the ears together and pull it off, and you'll find the wire coming from the passenger side battery over to the fuse block here. It's going to be a 13mm nut. Going to hook up the power lead going to the relay to that terminal and put the nut back on there. Down here in the corner there's a nut for the fender body mounting. Just going to pull that nut off of there, scrape off a little bit of paint, and then hook the ground terminal on there. Alright, so I got it all powered up. Turn on the fog lights. See the icon pop on. Now I'm going to press and hold on the off-road light button. Icon comes on, and so does the off-road light. Press it again and hold it. Goes away. You can see when it turns on, it kind of lights up amber. It's kind of hard to tell with this light on. You can see it there. Alright, now to run this cable, I'm going to run it through the inside of the fender, up in front of the battery, and out by the headlight, up in behind the grill. In order to remove the grill, I first need to pull off this top plastic plate, and there's a bunch of these little push-in clips to remove first. They're pretty easy to pull off. To pop these off there, you just kind of slip a pry tool or a screwdriver or whatever up underneath the middle section of it, pull the middle section up, and then remove the whole thing. When you put it back in, you just plug it down and then snap it back down. Alright, with all this removed, just kind of pop the thing up off of there. Next, there are 4 10mm screws across the top. Just pop them all out of there. Alright, with all those out of there, just need to pull up on the mounting tabs if those things were screwed through, and then pull out on the grill. With it all out, you kind of pull on the bottom of the grill, pop the whole thing off towards you. There it is. I want to mount this thing somewhere in this area. So what I'm going to do is take a piece of angle iron or aluminum and go straight across, bolting it to this diagonal support on either side, and then bolting this up to the angle iron. It's about the area I want right here. Alright, so I got a 24-inch piece of aluminum angle bolted onto these diagonal crossbars, and then a couple of holes drilled up top to mount the light bar to. Just hit it with some flat high temperature black. It's looking pretty good so far. Alright, I've got the wiring routed in behind the support, down underneath, and up in behind the headlight. I have up the side of it, got it plugged in up here, comes through, kind of hanging on the same clip as the wiper washer fluid, and back down through the fender well. Got the rest of it excess coiled up in the fender well. There it is. You can kind of see it in there if you're really looking for it, but it's pretty well hidden.